Kababayan LA, kanina sa aming balita segment, pinag-usapan ang desisyon or still being debated on sa Supreme Court, ang SB 1070. And now we're going to be talking a little bit more about that too, plus advanced parole sa aming immigration update brought to us by American Dream.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Richard Lowe joining us today from Aquino & Lowe Law Firm to talk to us about immigration. SB 1070. So what are your thoughts? Is there anything going on with immigration right now aside from that? Or are you optimistic that something's going to happen? Or because it's election year, people are just going to...
Well, as for SB 1070, the Supreme Court was debating that today, and looks like it's going to come down to a 4-4 split. Kagan is recusing herself because she was part of the administration that was working on it. So if that happens, the Ninth Circuit decision will stand, and the other circuits, though, can go ahead and make laws as they choose. So.
And that's what President Obama's administration doesn't want to happen, because then it will have different immigration laws for different states or for different circuits.
That has been the argument. I don't know that that's really what's going to happen, but I think basically the administration would like to get a handle on it and have the federal government take charge of this. And I think perhaps this kind of disconnect between all the states will push the administration, the federal administration, to do something about immigration finally.
And earlier, when we were talking about this during the break, there seems to be a disconnect as well from the upper tier, upper level management and politicians, and then the actual enforcers of the law.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You've heard a lot of Obama talking about how we need to have immigration reform, how we're going to start going after criminals. We're not going to arrest you know, the mom and dad and with the kids, and we're going to let people go, and we're going to have a more sort of easier way of dealing with immigrants. And there's a lot of talk about that. Even Morton, which is the Homeland Security Secretary, said that in a conference last year. But the boots on the ground, the officers who are making the decisions, the ICE officers, the CIS officers, they're still going by their old mentality. So it's really kind of a frustrating disconnect when you have the administration saying, we're going to try to do better, but the officers saying, well, nothing's really changed.
Election years in history, you know, immigration is such a big issue that a lot of these politicians use. Do you think something's going to happen finally, or does election year actually, is it more disadvantageous to the issues because politicians just tend to use it?
Well, I think that's actually right. I think, and it's used by the Democrats, obviously, because the Republicans don't really fall in line with the people who are most affected by these issues. Latinos and Asian Americans generally don't vote Republican. So the Republicans are probably not going to allow the Democrats to do anything along immigration reform, because that would benefit their constituency. Right. So I would be surprised if you saw anything happen meaningfully from the Congress on immigration until after the election.
All right. So we're waiting. And speaking of waiting, for people that are waiting to obtain their green card, but still wanting or needing to leave the U.S., what's going to happen? Advanced parole. Let's talk about that. You
know, you can actually do this. I mean, I get a lot of clients who ask me, like, okay, I'm in the process for my green card. Can I go home? And generally speaking, you can go home. There are some issues that go along with that. But, for example, a lot of times if you had a fiance come over and then she wants to go back to take care of some things, she can do that. As long as she gets advanced parole, she has to get permission in order to go back, or else she abandons her application. The issue has been that a lot of Filipinos are here as overstays or other issues which make them removable or inadmissible should they try to come back in the United States once they leave because they have unlawful presence. The CIS, Citizenship Immigration Services, had been saying, you cannot leave on advanced parole. If you do, we won't let you back in.
Right.
Or we'll let you back in, but we won't let you adjust, and we'll put you in removal proceedings.
If you're overstaying.
If you've overstayed, if you have unlawful presence for more than a year. There's been a recent BIA case, just came out last week, that said, hold on, that's not our interpretation. And they're basically saying, if you are in the process of adjustment of status and your only bar to admission would be unlawful presence. If you get permission from the government to leave and return, then that return puts you back in the status that you were before without any bars to your adjustment as for unlawful presence.
So we're talking about two different kinds of interpretation here. Whose interpretation stands?
Well, it was interesting because the BIA pointed out that CIS had been publishing memos regarding this issue. And they've been doing this a lot, where rather than publishing regulations and going through the regulatory process, they've been publishing memos to give sort of a policy indication as to where they stand. And the BIA said, although we have to give some deference to that, this is not regulations, so we can reinterpret the law the way we think it should be interpreted. And it's kind of giving a nudge to Immigration Service to say, if you're going to make policy, then you need to put it into regulations, or we don't necessarily have to follow that.
And so this is good news for some of our Kababayan, some of the Filipinos that are wanting or needing to go home while waiting for their green card. How long does it take to obtain a green card?
Well, thankfully, that process has sped up. It's been cut down in most jurisdictions to about 4 to 6 months. So most people won't really have a need for advanced parole. The need that I have seen most common is when in employment-based petitions, sometimes we get retrogressions of numbers. So you're okay in May when you file, but June comes along and the numbers are backed up. So you might be in that process for 8, 9 months, even longer.
Right.
And in that case, the advanced parole does become a big issue because people don't want to be in this limbo where they can't go forward and they can't visit an aging relative or somebody at home.
Yeah, and sometimes family emergencies happen, death in the family in the Philippines, and you'll need to go. But thank you so much for sharing your views with us and explaining the law to us today. That's the number to call on the screen if you want to schedule your appointment with them, Aquino and Low Law Firm. They also helped me with obtaining my own green card, so I can assure you you are in good hands if you call them. Thank you so much for more power. We'll be back more in Kababayan LA. Don't go away.